Hello, and how to do there? It is time to talk about the rainforests and how they're disappearing. Sad, very sad. Some learning goals, and they are you're going to know those three main threats to rainforests: logging, that's straight up cutting it down for the wood, farming, and mining. And you're going to be able to draw and interpret a map. Yeah, you're going to draw your own map, and then you're going to interpret it. Oh my god. Right, logging. One of the three big threats to rainforests, and there are two different types of logging. There is clear felling, that's where you basically cut all trees using a chainsaw or a bulldozer. That should be OR, not ORE. Sorry about that typo. And then you've got selective logging, which is where you only remove the best trees and you leave the rest. And the idea being that the trees that you do cut down grow back, and so you don't wipe out the whole forest. So I'll show you a picture of what that looks like. The top is clear cutting, getting rid of all of it. Yeah. Sorry about this middle one. I don't know what that one is. And then the bottom one is selective logging. See how they have only cut down some trees and then they'll grow back, but the forest in general lasts. So clear cutting or clear felling gets rid of the forest. Selective cutting just uses the best trees for wood or whatever and lets the forest continue to grow. Let's have a think about what this graph is telling us. So the vertical axis, species diversity, right? So if the dot is low, there's going to be not a lot of diversity, i.e. lots of extinctions, and if the species diversity is high, it means there's lots of different plants and animals. So clear cut, if you clear cut, you have low species diversity, yeah, because you cut all the trees down, so the animals have got nowhere to live, so they die. Go right to the other end here, old growth, so like old rainforests that haven't been cut down at all, and they have the most species diversity. And then in the middle, selective logging is not as bad as clear cutting, but it's not as good as just leaving the forest alone. So there you go. That shows you what clear cutting, selective logging, and leaving the old forest alone does for biodiversity. And there's another one. So if you were going to replant all the trees after clear cutting, it would all grow back at the same time. That's this one here. And if you used selective cutting, you'd have trees of all different heights. So you can, yeah, clear felling and clear cutting. If you replant all of the trees, then that still could be considered sustainable. Yeah. Farming, the second of the big three threats to rainforests. Right. So because human population is increasing so much, we need more land for farm. Also, because human population has increased a lot, highways get built. So you need to build roads that go to the farms. And as soon as you've got a road going through the middle of a forest, then people can start building side roads. As soon as there's a highway in there, then settlers move in. So it's the beginning of the end. And when it comes to people who turn rainforests into farms, they usually just burn the trees down, and they either have subsistence farming, if you remember, or maybe you don't know yet. Subsistence farming is just farming enough to stay alive yourself. It's not. Most Australian farmers are cash crop farmers. They farm heaps or grow heaps of something and sell it. Subsistence farmers are just farming for themselves and their family. So there you go. When farms take over forests, it's replaced by those survival farmers or subsistence farmers or large-scale cattle ranchers. Cattle are cows, male cows. For meat, if you eat beef, you're supporting cattle ranching. So there's an example of a farm that's been carved out of the forest. Sad. Here's a look at what happens to a forest once it's turned into a farm. So what are the effects once we have large-scale farming? The temperature increases. We have more dry and more rainy periods. More of the water that does hit the ground gets evaporated straight back up again. Yeah. This is what's called an infographic. It's an interesting visual way to show information. Here is the deforestation that's occurred in Brazil. That's extremely depressing. Yep. So look, all of that coastal forest in Brazil has been cut down. Bye-bye, forest. Right, the third of the three big threats to rainforests is mining. Lots of rainforests are on land that's got energy and minerals underneath it. So there might be oil under there might be gas under there might be gold, uranium, diamonds, who knows? And so people want to cut down the rainforest so that they can mine, dig out the stuff that's underneath the rainforest. Of course, mining is very, very damaging to the forest. It completely destroys the forest, and you have to build roads to get to the mines, and mines leaves a lot of pollution afterwards. You might find that trees are burnt or cut down for hydroelectric power. Hydropower is when a river runs over a turbine and spins a turbine, and so with the power of gravity pushing the water down, the turbine creates electricity. And there's heaps of pollution left afterwards. I'll show you a picture that will completely gross you out. That is a mine in the middle of a rainforest. They cut all those trees down, dug all those holes to get that stuff out, whatever it is, and that's what it looks like afterwards. Horrendous! Have a look at this. So you can ask yourself, what are these graphs about? And second, what are they telling us? So the graphs are about deforestation from gold mines. And what information is it telling us? That deforestation from gold mining has increased steadily from year to year. So there you go. And this one here tells us that a lot of that increase is small mines. I don't know what all those other kinds are. It's time to watch a video after the rainforests disappear. Sad.
Since the beginning of the 20th century, roughly half of the world's rainforests have been wiped out. And by the end of the 21st century, rainforests may go extinct altogether. You may think it's just a few plants and animals that'll suffer, but modern global society relies on rainforests more than you might realize. The loss of this dense biodiversity could lead to sickness, poverty, even war. So, what would a post-rainforest world look like? Well, first it's important to understand why the rainforest is disappearing. Globally, over the last 40 years, an area possibly the size of Europe has been cleared and repurposed for commercial use. In some cases, the land is replanted with trees that produce rubber or palm oil. In other cases, it's used as grazing land for cattle, or it's torn down for urban development. And if nothing is done, we may ultimately see rainforests gone altogether, and along with them, crucial benefits. Without rainforests, some estimate that the basis for up to a quarter of modern medicine would be lost, with thousands of medical compounds derived from plants. For example, the rosy periwinkle, which is naturally endemic only to Madagascar, produces 2 anti-tumor drugs used to fight leukemia and Hodgkin's disease. Chemicals synthesized as a result of this plant contribute to an estimated $160 million per year, and the rainforest plant drug market in total has been estimated at roughly $150 billion. Many poor communities rely on rainforest plant life for medicine, as prescription medication and derivatives are completely unaffordable for large portions of the world's population. The World Health Organization estimates that roughly 80% of Africa's population uses traditional herbal medicine as part of their primary healthcare, while in China, up to half of all medicines consumed are herbal remedies. Besides a medicinal outlook, the lack of vegetation could mean a rapid rise in climate change. Rainforests are known as carbon sinks, which means they consume carbon dioxide, clearing it from the atmosphere. Studies show that roughly 40% of man-made CO2 is absorbed by forests. As carbon dioxide levels rise and rainforest acreage falls, the subsequent change in climate can contribute to severe droughts, as well as rising sea levels. This is a bigger problem than it may seem, as climate change plays a huge role in geopolitics. Wars over resources are devastating, and demand for farming land continues to outstrip its supply. In 2014, in northern Honduras, US-backed security forces were implicated in the murder and intimidation of local farmers involved in disputes over palm oil. More than 100 people have already been killed over the disputes. In other parts of the world, entire indigenous tribes are being killed and displaced in favor of commercial logging and raising. But stopping this deforestation may not end up solving a larger problem. Even when ignoring financial gain by businesses which exploit these natural resources, many people in developing countries rely on the exploitation to survive. For example, palm oil employs millions of farmers, and the industry plays an important role in reducing poverty. According to one NGO on sustainable palm oil, as many as 4.5 million people in Indonesia and Malaysia work in its production. And simply switching to another method of production could potentially be even worse for the environment. Alternative vegetable oils like sunflower, soybean, and rapeseed produce about 4 to 10 times less oil per acre. So to meet demand, even more land would have to be destroyed. We all know rainforests are vital, but their direct impacts in day-to-day health, global stability, and the condition of the world's atmosphere are regularly understated. In the end, a world without rainforests is much more devastating than we might realize, and much harder to avoid than we might expect. If you're an entrepreneur, innovator, or building a small business, domain.com is the place to go when that next great idea hits you. No domain extension will help tell your story like a .com or .net domain name. Domain.com is affordable, reliable, and easy to use. Get 20% off Domain.com's already affordable domain names and web hosting when you use coupon code SEEKER at checkout. When you think domain names, think Domain.com. The Amazon rainforest is notorious for its unknown terrain. Watch this video to find out why it's known to explorers as the Green Hell. Thanks for watching Seeker Daily. Make sure to like and subscribe.
And here's the exciting moment where you get to draw a map and interpret it. So get a blank outline map of Brazil. You can get that from wherever you want, but if you can't find one, just use that one in that link there. And then I want you to recreate this map yourself on paper or on your iPad. So click on that or type that link in. That'll take you to a map. You need to make your own version of that map. You can do it on paper or on your iPad. But if you do it on your iPad, you still need to take a photo of it and upload it to the task. So it might be just as easy to print out that outline map and do it on paper. But if you are going to do the map on your iPad, you still need to color it all in from scratch. You can't just screenshot the existing one there. Your map obviously has got to include bolts. And the final task is to write 3 or 4 sentences explaining what we can learn from your map. Reflect. Let's reflect, shall we, on the lesson that's been. I want you to do a think, puzzle, explore. So you just need to write 3 sentences. When we're talking about the destruction of the Amazon, sad as it is, I want you to say what you think about it. I want you to say something that puzzles you about it. And lastly, something that you might like to explore further. Do that reflection activity. Write all those notes down, take a photo, upload it. Fun times. Thank you. Keep it real.